So if you look at the broader Mesopotamian influence here, is people are going to move out of Mesopotamia to other areas of the world. People are going to adapt the ways of the Mesopotamians. And one of the examples is the Hebrews, where the Hebrews are going to adapt many of what the Mesopotamian traditions were and integrate them into their society. Israelites are going to form a branch of the Hebrews who settled in Palestine after 1200 BCE into the kingdom of Judea. They were early pastoral nomads. Abraham comes from Ur. He is a shepherd. He had migrated into northern Mesopotamia about 1850 BCE. Took many of the things from Mesopotamian society with him, such as some of the laws, such as stories of a big flood. And then when the Hebrews migrate into Egypt in the 18th century BCE, a lot of those traditions go away. In the 13th century BC, Moses leads the exodus of them leaving Egypt. And as they eventually settle back into what we will now know today as Israel, they're organized into 12 tribes, and then they integrate with other of the Palestinians, but they get some territory for themselves, and they start having a similar government structure to the Mesopotamians with a king led by David and Solomon as two examples. Now, the early Hebrews had recognized many gods, somewhat similar to animism, but Moses embraces monotheism, and Abraham had also embraced monotheism. There's only one true God known as Yahweh, that Yahweh is the creator and the sustainer of the world, and that all the other gods are imposters. And Yahweh is a personal God. In Jerusalem, a decorated temple is going to be built for Yahweh, and that followers of Yahweh must embrace him and have a high moral standard and ethics. No lying, no theft, no adultery, no murder. 10 Commandments, protection for widows, orphans, slaves, and the poor. All the teachings of the Jews here will go into what is called the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament. And Yahweh would reward individuals who obeyed his will and punish those who did not. And it also taught that Yahweh would punish communities as a whole. Now, the Assyrians are going to conquer the northern kingdoms of the Hebrews. There's no signs that the Israelis had conquered all of Palestine, but they did have small conflicts with one another. And more emphasis is placed on Yahweh in the region as time moves forward. After Solomon's reign, there's large divisions in the community. Solomon was a very powerful leader. And Judea was going to be in the south of it, and all the Israelites that had left had lost their identity. And what's going to happen is, as the Assyrians move in, they are going to conquer the northern kingdoms, and the Israelites move out. And when they left, a lot of them lost their identities, like I said. But the northern part, the northern part maintained their identity. So the southern part, their identity starts to lose. The northern part, their identity stays. And a series of prophets make sure that the Israelites in the northern part stick to Yahweh in times of reconquering. Now, some people that had left do come back after the Babylonians take over. The Assyrians work to get rid of them. But in the south, some do come back and try to build their own state. And a religious community is built as a whole around Yahweh, which now today we now know as Judaism. Moving on then to the second part here, the broader influence of Mesopotamia is the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians controlled a narrow strip of land between the Mediterranean Sea and the mountains in Lebanon. They spoke an ancient Semitic language, calling themselves the Canaanites, and from the land known as Canaan. And the Phoenician is what the Greeks called these people. The Phoenicians migrated around 3000 BCE and established a series of independent states: Tyre, Babylos, Beirut, which will become Beirut eventually. And these are the major cities. They're also going to establish major trading networks in Rhodes and Cyprus, Sicily, and Sardinia. And we'll show you a map here. Here's where you're looking here's where you're looking. The area here, green, is your Phoenician area. And you can see it even more here, where if you think back, here's where Palestine was, or Kingdom of Israel was, and the Kingdom of Judea was, going back to the Israeli stuff. So they found the Phoenicians have huge trading networks, They find and they want to find gold and copper, and that's what they're trying to find. But why? Because it's very precious for trading, and they are going to provide raw materials throughout the region. They provide these raw materials, and that gets them to be very wealthy. They are traveling throughout the Mediterranean Sea. They adopted Mesopotamian religion and writing through the use of cuneiform for about 1,000 years. Most of their writings are gone today, but by 1500 BC, they start in on their own letters. Much easier to learn. They're using symbols to represent sounds. And it is very similar to what we use today, because eventually the Greeks will adopt it, then the Romans will adopt it, and then it's going to get passed on throughout Europe, and very similar to what the English letters look today. And that's that alphabetic script with 22 letters. The Greeks add symbols for the vowel sounds. As a whole, throughout this region, the Phoenicians, that huge trading network allows things to spread, and that alphabet that moves on. They traded with the Mesopotamians, provided resources for Jewish temples. They get the raw materials, allow for pottery, textiles, glass, and art. They are also known for their red and purple dyes, and this were purple, the color of royalty, because they were very wealthy. They flew purple sails on their boats, and that's going to allow them that purple becomes a sign of wealth throughout the ancient world.